Welcome to Movies Are Life. I'm your host, Nathan Chandler. And who knew a beach house, a turtleneck, and a classic love triangle could create so much chaos and comedy? Today we're shining a spotlight on the number 11 film on the 50 Best Rom-Coms list, Something's Gotta Give. Directed by the legendary Nancy Meyers and starring Hollywood icons Jack Nicholson and Diane Keaton, this film has captured the hearts of audiences around the globe since its release. But I'm not doing this alone. Joining us today is a very special guest in studio, someone who knows a thing or two about both love and cinema, my father-in-law, Steve Graham. How are you doing, Steve?
I'm good, Nathan. How are you? That was gracious.
You've been on the show many times, but never as a solo guest. So how do you feel about that?
Well, I feel pretty good. You're doing a good job with all of these.
I am trying to. So, I don't think I've ever asked you this question, but would you consider yourself a movie fan?
Oh, yeah. I like movies.
Yeah. So I know you and Jennifer watch both a lot of film and television. Did you grow up like loving movies or going to the movies?
Yeah. They're going to think that I knew you were going to ask this, but, we used to go to the movie every Sunday afternoon. And it was a big surprise that my folks would let me go because the Baptist kids weren't supposed to go to movies. And I remember one Sunday afternoon watching a movie, The Days of Wine and Roses.
Okay.
And all my rowdy junior high kids were there. And when it just lost them because it was really not a rom-com, it was really a drama.
Yeah.
And when it got serious and got painful, they all left, and I sat there immersed in it. So,
yeah, I don't know if I've seen that movie.
oh man, it's a story about a man and his wife's alcoholism.
Jack Lemmon and
Jack, yes,
yeah,
and Debbie. No,
well, Lee Remick.
Lee Remick, exactly.
See, I'm not super familiar with her.
She was a lovely lady, very pretty, very spry, and yet she began to have this developing alcohol problem.
Oh, okay.
And I was just compelled to stay there. And so I've liked movies, grew up a lot of James Bond movies.
So who's a quintessential James Bond to you?
What's the first guy?
Sean Connery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You probably weren't expecting me to throw all these questions out at you. I got you trapped, so that's why I was
Okay,
asking.
good.
Yeah. Well, let's just travel to the Hamptons and we'll discuss this today's movie. Something's Gotta Give.
The Ultimate Bachelor
Did you take any Viagra?
Deep Viagra.
Positive? Because I put nitroglycerin into your drip. The combination could be fatal.
is about to encounter
Your dad's gonna be okay.
He's not my dad.
I'm sorry, your granddad's gonna be okay.
something new.
Sorry. God, am I sorry.
Something's Gotta Give is a 2003 American rom-com written and produced and directed by Nancy Meyers. It features Diane Keaton as the sophisticated playwright Erica Berry and Jack Nicholson as the charming but commitment-phobic Harry Sanborn. When Harry unexpectedly falls for Erica, who happens to be the mother of his young girlfriend, hilarity and heartache ensue in equal measure. Keanu Reeves and Amanda Peet also co-star, with Frances McDormand, Paul Michael Glaser, Jon Favreau, and Katie Strickland playing key supporting roles. Something's Gotta Give received positive reviews from critics and emerged as a commercial success at the box office, grossing $266 million worldwide. For her performance, Keaton received a nomination for the Academy Award for Best Actress and won the Golden Globe Award for Best Actress in a Motion Picture Comedy or Musical, while Nicholson received a nomination for Best Actor in a Motion Picture Musical or Comedy. So I'll say I can't remember exactly when I saw this movie, but I know I didn't see it when it came out because I was like deep in the throes of Baylor when it was released in 2003. So I saw it sometime after that. I guess maybe because it was a rom-com centered around older adults, I wasn't compelled to go at Baylor. So I don't quite remember when I saw this, but do you know when this wasn't your first time seeing it, was it?
No, I saw it in 2003 when it came out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and of course Whitney would have been about a senior in Baylor
Yeah.
at that time, and so really, you were gracious about Jack Nicholson. He's really an aging womanizer. Is really what he's up to.
That was a gracious description, and it's so funny, and I'm sure we'll talk about it quite a bit because, in a lot of ways, it feels like the two here, Diane Keaton and Jack Nicholson, are playing maybe exaggerated versions of themselves, or maybe not. In Nicholson's case, I wonder if it's like actually being nicer than maybe his real life persona. But did you get that dynamic from them?
Oh yeah, and in fact, they kind of bring their characters to life. You just kind of feel like they're both involved in this.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I've always been a fan of both of them.
Yes.
So, and I would say probably, you still see Diane Keaton now, and I've heard like Jack Nicholson, for lack of better terms, has retired from acting. I think because of his age now, you don't see him. He used to always have like a front seat at the Oscars, and you don't see him there anymore. But I would say, as far as like, especially, I mean, their heydays were definitely like the 70s, like when they emerged. But from like the actors and actresses that came out from that decade, these two are probably the ones I've seen the most. I haven't seen all of their movies before, but definitely familiar from them. So they were. I was doing some research. They had done a movie before, but this was definitely. They didn't act together a whole lot, and I think they're. I don't know. Even if you took the romantic elements out of this movie, I don't know. You feel like there's a friendship there or something, a familiarity between them.
Yeah. Was Diane Keaton in Crimes of the Heart?
Ooh,
Jennifer's favorite movie?
Yes, that's one of...
Excuse me.
Yeah, no, I know she loves that movie.
Yes.
I need to give it another watch sometime. I remember I tried... Yeah, she is in that movie.
Yeah, that's... And then Nicholson is... What's his famous ones?
Well, one of my favorite movies has always been One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh, of course. That's where I was going to drive.
Yeah, but The Shining, he was an Easy Rider, just kind of almost like a cameo bit part. I've never seen 5 Easy Pieces, even though I've heard it's like really good.
Yes.
I've never seen The Last Detail. I've heard lots of good stuff about that. Mm-hmm. But then later on in life, of course, he was the Joker and the Batman.
Yeah.
Or not the Batman, just Batman, but yeah.
I had read One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and then got to see it early on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was powerful.
Yeah, it's a great movie. So, yeah, so had it probably been a little while since you had seen this movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, so did you, your impressions, did you remember a lot of it, about it?
Something's Got to Give?
Yeah.
We're back to that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I was startled at how the flow was almost seamless. Mm-hmm. It did not run itself. It just developed and just kept developing, and you really did believe in it. And I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
I probably liked it more this time than the first time I saw it.
Well, it's funny that you said that because, like I said, I can't pinpoint when I first saw it. I know me and Whitney watched it not like like a couple of years ago or like that. And it's a movie I always kind of like, I felt like I liked, I kind of enjoyed, but was never completely drawn to. And for whatever reason, and Whitney says it's because I'm getting older, but but I really enjoyed this movie a lot this second go. I don't know if I was able to kind of rest in its pace a little bit more, but I do also feel like probably at the age that I'm at now, and just I guess is 40 over the hill? Or no, that's 50, right? But I'm approaching the hill, so I think some of the themes that these two characters are dealing with and what they're looking for in life and love and stuff, maybe I connected more to that. I don't know. Speaking
as a 70-year-old, I wouldn't know what that means to be over the hill.
Yeah, I just, Yeah, I just really enjoyed this movie a lot.
I thought there was obviously some wonderful fun parts, funny,
Yes.
but there were nice pithy lines
Yes.
where something happens and there's a statement, and the statement really says it.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. The dialogue definitely stands out here, like for
Okay.
sure. Yeah, and Nancy Myers. I don't know if you had a chance to see, but you've probably seen more of her work than you even realize.
Yeah, what are a couple of those?
Yeah. So she's directing wise. She has most recent. She did It's Complicated, which is that movie's kind of similar
Yes.
in the vein, but The Holiday, which we covered in this.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So some of her direct, The Intern. I don't know if you ever saw that with Robert De Niro and Anne Hathaway, but she's definitely known for her screenplays almost more so. So like she wrote and directed this film, also with The Holiday and things like that. But she wrote The Father of the Bride, the first and second one, Baby Boom in the '80s with Diane Keaton, Private Benjamin. So yeah, she's been around in Hollywood for a really long time.
Well, you said that's number 11.
Number 11, yeah.
Are some of her others up in front of that?
No, this one was the highest
highest?
one. Yeah.
Because it really deserves a high ranking.
Yeah, and I think I was a little surprised by that. I think maybe because when this movie did come out, and it's probably really the maybe tail end of the rom-com boom, really. And so it, in a way, maybe at the time, I feel like it probably kind of felt like formulaic a little bit, like compared to the others. But in this one, I mean, I can't help but think that the Diane Keaton character is probably a reflection of Nancy Meyers' own life, being this like playwright, almost like Diane Keaton's like a surrogate for her. But
Yes.
this movie in a way kind of felt, in a good way, like stagey to me a little bit, like
Okay.
especially the way it's set in the beach house, like for the
Yes.
majority of the film. And especially how at the end with them being in Paris is a very kind of like, I can almost see the backdrop like falling down with the Eiffel Tower in the background or something like that. But yeah, I've always been a fan of her, and you hit on it. The dialogue's great. Both Keaton and Nicholson just seem to know how to deliver the lines. Nicholson is just like, his character is so interesting because, his life is something, I personally wouldn't admire. This kind of like, he's dating, girls way much younger than him, not committed, that sort of thing. But when he talks, and you see how someone like Diane Keaton's character falls into his charm. Would you
Yes.
agree?
Yes.
Because he's afraid of commitment, but he seems he's charming. You also like want to keep him at a distance, but he does such a good job of you actually caring for him.
There may have been a little bit of magnetism between the two, but it moves to a point where suddenly he's listening to her and he describes her to herself.
I think you're formidable.
Yeah, cold, distant, like I'm frozen in some painting.
Not at all. But I do think that you use your strength to separate yourself from everyone. But it's thrilling when your defenses are down and you're not isolated. That, I believe, is your winning combo. Killer combo, actually.
I can't decide if you hate me or if you're like the only person who ever really got me.
I don't hate you.
And she says, "Why, that's right. You get me."
Right.
And she was hooked.
Yeah.
He had really listened to her well enough.
Yeah. And I think that's definitely the charm of this movie is just the connection between them seems natural, and I think the believability of where they get, I think it kind of makes sense. As hard as a person he is to ever commit to somebody, you believe that he would fall enough for Diane Keaton, to turn from his old ways. And I think that's something that's very commendable. So this film tackles a lot of themes of love, aging, and second chances. Is one of those type of themes resonate with you the most?
Well, the aging or the fleeting nature of life, because he's dealing with some heart issues.
Right.
It kind of sobers you up a little bit.
Yeah.
I think I could get that.
Yeah. Have you, you may not want to go into it, but have you ever had like one of those kind of moments in life where it's, I guess maybe made you pause a little bit more and try to figure things out a little bit more?
Yeah, I've always been a little inclined to take it seriously.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
So I can trip up those stairs quite often.
I love the stairs motif. And did you mean to say that, or because that was very good?
Maybe I got it because the doctor says to him, if you can climb a flight of stairs, you can have sex.
Right.
So yeah, that was a good line.
Yeah.
And I guess that. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and it just works in this. I mean, I haven't frequented beach houses, certainly one like this one a whole lot, but I mean, that's something that you see a lot on beaches is those stairs.
Got to pay the price to get down there and back up from it.
Yeah. And I mean, the setting itself, I mean, Nancy Meyers is known for these like elaborate like kitchens and the houses. Like we talked about The Holiday, and plays a big part in that movie. I can't quite remember. It's complicated a whole lot, but I feel like the Meryl Streep character is actually like a designer or something, and her house is like immaculate in that. So, but the beach setting, I think to itself kind of lends to this romance in this movie as well.
Right.
Yeah. I would so I think they even allude to the fact that she also has a place in New York City. And so it's like, what a life to have a place in New York City and have a beach house like that.
Well, rather than with the recent college grads, he's now with a woman who's highly successful. She's been honored by her writing, and so you can't help but think he's a little bit drawn to that, though he doesn't realize it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much. So obviously, almost like the big hook of this movie is how this film addresses intergenerational relationships and the idea of finding love at any age. So how do you feel like about that concept, or how this movie kind of tackles this?
Well, I guess you live with that blessed hope. You hope you're never down and out and left to your own.
Yeah.
That there's possibility for something, and you watch that kind of get lit between them, and it takes off and goes someplace, and you like that. I think that's one of the fascinating things. You start pulling for them to get there.
Right.
One's there, and the other maybe is there. And anyway, they're finding their way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if it's been a while since people have watched this movie, so Jack Nicholson's character Harry, he's 63. Diane Keaton, and I'm sorry, I know she has a character name, but it's Diane Keaton.
It's Erica.
Yeah, Erica, that's right. So Erica is 56. So there's that kind of dynamic there. So Keanu Reeves, who plays the doctor in here, he's pinned as being 36 years old. And then Marin, who is Erica's daughter who Harry is dating at the beginning, is 29. So I will say the 63 to 29 age difference seems quite dramatic.
Yes.
But and it's a little, I don't know, it's a little hard, as charming as Jack Nicholson is. I mean, I don't know, for someone that age to want to be with an older band. I mean, now obviously they've built him up as being this like record executive and money and stuff like that, but it seems, especially for her, like possibly introducing him to her family and stuff seems.
Yes.
quite a leap. But,
Well, and they didn't intend to meet each other. They meet up at the beach house,
yeah,
and then after he has his heart flare up, and then he's trying to recover and come back and trying to make sense of all of this, he goes to see a whole lot of the people that he's left along the way
yeah.
to figure out what went wrong,
Right.
as if anything had ever gone right.
Right. And then, what did you think about the relationship between Diane and the Keanu Reeves character here, who's Dr. Mercer?
Yes, well, all powerful doctors. he wasn't put off by her age. He's kind of drawn to it,
Yeah.
and he I've forgotten he had gotten out of a relationship or something.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
But he's really fascinated with her, and she wouldn't have taken it serious at all, but her sister
Right.
says go for it.
Yeah. Played by Frances McDormand, which
Yes.
is not in the movie a whole lot, but when she is, she makes the most of the scenery for
Yes,
sure.
she does. I kind of thought that Amanda Peet, which is the daughter,
Yeah, Mary. Yeah.
I kind of thought they might click
Yeah.
at one point, but no, that I'm glad she didn't make us go there.
Right.
It wasn't everybody gets connected.
Yeah. No, I agree, and it's kind of funny. I didn't plan on this initially, really, but we covered The Matrix a couple episodes ago. Which is famously stars Keanu Reeves, and so it was funny watching him in this. And so I actually liked him in this movie. I think he plays his part really well.
Yes, I do too. And it's funny to have such a major guy suddenly be a cast-off.
Right.
He doesn't get the girl.
No. And honestly, it had been long enough that I couldn't quite remember how this movie ends. And so, spoilers to anybody if they, this movie's very old, so it's not a big deal. But I had completely forgotten that he was in Paris with Erica at the end. That was a shock to me just as much as it was Harry. I don't know if you remembered that happening or not.
Well, I did, and I remembered him going, but I couldn't remember the outcome. And I really thought that maybe it was too late for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That Harry had shown up too late this time. So that was an interesting development.
Yeah. I couldn't quite tell if this was maybe true to the character of Marin. So, Marin tells Harry, my mom's in Paris, you basically tells him to go find her.
Yes.
A little interesting that she didn't mention that the doctor was there.
Exactly.
Which is you can read that two different ways. Of one, she really knew that's where the real love was, but also kind of a little conniving on her part too. To send someone all the way to Paris. But I have a kind of, so they never I might have missed it, completely established it. So it seems as if they're paying Dr. Mercer to really check up on Harry. He orders this house arrest and all this kind of stuff. But the hospital, I don't know, it's just all of a sudden they have a private doctor or something. Did they explain that or did I miss that?
No, I'm kind of wondering if he had met Erica in that process in some way. And so he was already coming because of his attraction to her.
Yeah, maybe doing a little bit more just because.
I couldn't
just to see
remember
her.
that either.
Yeah, but I was just kind of if this is just a general healthcare, I'm going in to get checked out. This doctor really has quite an emotional investment into Harry and his recovery.
It seems like maybe he knew who Harry was through his popularity.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah, something.
Yeah. But if you're in a hospital near the Hamptons, I'm sure your clientele is usually
you're going to pay attention.
You're going to pay attention. Yeah. What I really liked about both Jack Nicholson and Diane Keaton in this movie was just how vulnerable they they are in their performances. Because, I mean, I think just like Hollywood stars are Hollywood stars. So from an ego perspective, their ability to put them, I mean, I think for Jack Nicholson to basically, you know, his character has a heart attack, but then like, you know, he makes several hospital visits. So just the fact that, you know, and he's one of our most famous actors that we have, but to be able to be, I guess, embrace the age of what he is and that this is part of life. I thought that was really neat. And I mean, it's played for comedy, but also basically being able to, you know, show his ass in the hospital with the open gown. But then later when they had the run in and Diane Keaton to be like completely nude for just a second, I just thought that was, I mean, now these actors definitely had the clout, but I think it was maybe commendable. I'm not saying commendable that they were naked on screen, but like, I don't know.
I wish I knew more about film, but isn't it in Pete and Tilly that, no, Walter Matthau and Carol Burnett?
Okay.
And Walter Matthau plays the piano with his crack showing from the back.
Oh.
And I wondered if they copied that.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't think that's a movie. Yeah.
Yeah, but do you know what I mean? With just being able to like, hey, I'm going to play this character who, you know, is basically a reflection of myself, who has all these health issues. I thought that was. I don't think there'll be many actors to sign up for that type of role.
I'm with you. Well, and also when you, they're not going to draw you into the drama of it, so you start feeling passionate for him, you know,
yeah,
or compassion.
Yeah.
And in this one, you know, it's kind of like he's a mess and he just keeps acting like a mess. Doesn't he have a cigar in his mouth at one hand?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there you go.
Yeah. I would say maybe like, I mean, you kind of have to suspend some disbelief with this movie. One, I was talking about, you know, Keanu Reeves' doctor, like all the house visits he makes or whatever, which,
yes.
I mean, connotation is that they're paying him, but, you know, I don't know. But also, I mean, really, you know, for this guy just to be holed up in Erica's house, like, it's kind of like, I mean, it's almost kind of sitcomish in that type of way. Yeah. But the scenes that they have of connection, whether it's just like, you know, basically messaging each other from separate rooms and that sort of thing. And I particularly liked the moments in this movie where, well, the one where they decided in particular to go make pancakes in the kitchen.
Yes.
And I love that scene. There's other scenes like this that I think Nancy Meyers is incredible in how she stages it and writes it, but like so much is said in this movie through looks and nonverbal cues. So, you know, so Marion comes in and kind of like accidentally interrupts this like breakfast they're making, but just the looks that Jack Nicholson and Diane Keaton give each other and the things that I picked up. I just really liked that element of this movie a lot.
Exactly. And that when Amanda Peet's character comes in, Marin comes in on them, you're a little disappointed because you didn't want that to get interrupted.
Right.
But it got complicated because that was her former boyfriend, but she does a good job at finding her own displacement from it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that might be another jump of suspension of disbelief. I mean, this movie does a good job to really, honestly, not make you think about it too much. But, I mean, I don't know. No matter how attracted you are to a man, to know that he's at some point at least made out with my daughter is like, I don't know. That would be a hard bridge to get over.
It wasn't certain yet how far they had
right.
their relationship had ventured.
Yeah.
And at that point, later, the mother-daughter have to talk about that.
Yeah. Definitely the whole storm sequence that really sets off where they basically embrace their physical connection, but, you know, just have the candles, but that whole sequence of events, not just them like connecting, but then the awkwardness of him going back to his room and then him coming back into her room and the kind of basically frank dialogue that they have between each other. That whole sequence is good. And I think that's something that maybe makes this stand out amongst other rom-coms is, one, their age, but like, you know, you get to a certain point, I think when you get older and older, you're just a little bit more frank in your discussions. And I think that's what this movie really picks up on, is that these two characters, they're kind of like, hey, this is who I am in life. And so they're very, they're very straightforward with one another.
Well, 2003 was sort of the beginning of texting.
Yeah.
And for them to be in the same house but in two different rooms and texting, but they just start off from natural exchange of information, and then a little bit of curiosity gets built in there. And then you see them sort of not flirting, but they are opening up to each other, but you found that out through the text.
Right. Yeah. And I like kind of how that plays later in the movie when they're apart, and they have had this fight, but you know, he kind of tries to reconnect with her again through that message, you know, through the I guess instant messaging. But the fact that they're like now in two different cities, and you know, here's this like communication tool that allows you to connect over long distances, but they're unable to do it when they were able to connect with one another through that service, just in rooms next to each other.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Well, I was surprised at what it was like to replay the early days of texting and messaging each other, and then how she used that very effectively.
Oh yeah. No, for sure. As a writer yourself, like, did you appreciate her process in this movie?
Oh, I did. I thought it was really interesting that she starts grabbing hold of their dialogue, and of course that's the play that develops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another I think memorable kind of moment and scene is kind of post breakup, and it's almost like one of those like only Diane Keaton could pull this off, but the montage of her crying, I think, is really funny.
Oh yeah.
You have one new message. Message 1.
Erica, hi, it's Julian. I'm in the restaurant, and just wondering if you're on your way. It's about 8:20. It's a lovely night out here. It's nice.
She goes from inspiration and writing with what I used to call, one of my preacher friends was particularly good at creating as he sat there. And I called him fast fingers.
Oh, yeah.
Well, she has fast fingers on her keyboard, and she has to get the idea down, but then she goes back to sobbing. That was brilliant.
Yeah, it's so good. I know we're going off here, but you've written many sermons. Your line of work almost doesn't afford you the luxury of having writer's block, I'd say. But like, you know, versus like someone who's a playwright who's just trying to create something or whatever like that. But did you ever experience like writer's block and that sort of thing?
Well, yes, I have a friend who used to say, well, have you gotten just about every little chore done around the house? And you now finally have to go sit and write? Yeah, I do. I understand it. When he gets to Paris and he's looking for her, and I guess he finds the hotel, and then you know he's going to enter into it, and then she sees him coming in, it's really something, because you don't know how this is going to end at that point. And I thought they had done that whole development for this moment in time, and it really did leave. There was a lot of curiosity about how it was going to unfold.
Movie musings.
Simple question here, yes or no? Turtlenecks.
Turtlenecks. Oh, positive.
You positive?
Yeah.
Do you own turtlenecks?
When I went to college, I bought 5 mock turtlenecks, those half turtlenecks. and that was my attire for my college wear.
Okay. I've never been a big turtleneck person, so I generally like to stay cool, so that's part of it. There's also a famous stand-up comic named Mitch Hedberg that passed away a long time ago, but he had a joke of something like a turtleneck always feels like you have a little person on your back who's slowly strangling you. And ever since that joke, that's all I could think of with turtlenecks. So.
Well, Jack Nicholson starts flirting with her immediately because of her turtleneck.
Yeah, and once again, going back to Nancy Meyers, I love the symbolism. We talked about the stairs. There's a lot of symbolism with the shells, I think, and specifically the color. The color she picks up for herself, and the color she picks up for him, but also that the turtleneck, motif of her being stuck up, for lack of better terms. But Nancy Meyers is great of having these moments. They're kind of obvious, but I don't think they're like over the top.
Oh, but you know that she's in trouble when she's really proud of herself for not having on a turtleneck.
Right.
She's moved from the turtleneck to be so guarded.
Yeah. Where I work, whenever there's big T-shirt orders, there's always a big fight between having V-necks or just regular collars. So I never knew people would be so opinionated on the matter.
I got you.
So we kind of talked a little about their filmography, but I was just wondering, do you have a favorite Diane Keaton movie or a favorite Jack Nicholson movie?
Well, I've kind of given that away, that The Crimes of the Heart is my wife's, Jennifer's favorite movie.
Yeah.
And so I've seen that with her so many times that I would have to say that that's my favorite Diane Keaton movie.
Yeah.
And she does such a good job in the sister who stayed home while everyone else has gone and experienced the world.
Yeah.
And then Jack Nicholson in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. But there's another one.
Is it, I thought that's why we were talking. Was it Terms of Endearment? Maybe? Yeah.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Terms of Endearment, where I think he's really good.
Yeah. I need to watch that movie again. It's been a long time. But the memories I have from that movie is like, that was one. I mean, I've always said this. Movies can easily like make me tear up and cry. That was the first movie I remember like actively almost like bawling. It's like I just remember it being so sad, but it's also it has a lot of comedy in it. It's a James L. Brooks movie, I believe, and so it goes a lot of up and down with it. But that's made it almost like a little hard for me to revisit because I remember how I reacted the first time. So, personally for me, probably Jack Nicholson, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He's just incredible in that. The Shining has always been one of my favorite horror movies. Diane Keaton is, and it's always, Annie Hall used to always be one of my favorite movies. Because of everything with Woody Allen now, I've kind of tried to distance myself from that, and that's a really hard like art. Do you judge the artist or the work of art? But he's so ingrained in his movies. It's more than just the director and stuff. But I mean, that movie, Diane Keaton as Annie Hall. That really put her on the map, but also as this like fashion trendsetter and that sort of thing. So has it been a while since you've seen that movie?
Well, and I was wondering if Diane Keaton didn't get labeled by the stigma of being in one of the Woody Allen movies, but it did seem that it propelled her forward. Yeah.
So that was well before.
Yes.
It's not even fair to say Scandal with Woody Allen because it's like he's a horrible person. So I don't think that's just comes out of nowhere oftentimes. So he was probably a horrible person at the time of making. But I think a lot is made in this movie about crying and a good cry. Do you appreciate a good cry?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me that.
You did?
What's the movie where the brain surgeon has a heart attack and he's recovering from the heart attack and he goes to see his father who's and his father dies, but he asked his father asked him if he knows he's going to die, and he says, if I die on a Saturday, he's a bit actor. He said, if I die, will you make sure to have my service on a Saturday? Because the people can't come. We're all bid actors. We've got to be there to do. Well, that connecting to my own story, father, son stuff.
Oh.
I cried so much at that movie that I'm sucking air. And Jennifer has to pat my leg. You're going to be okay. You're going to survive. I'll have to find that name of that movie.
Yeah. One of the, and this wouldn't even make a movie on a list of like movies to make you cry, but it was shortly after Hallie was born, and it was one of our first date nights, and we went to the movies, and we went and saw We Bought a Zoo with Matt Damon.
Oh, yeah.
And in that movie, he has lost his wife. And there's a scene where he's in the kitchen and he's on his computer and he's just looking through the photos on his computer. And basically the photos come to life and you see him with his like deceased wife. And I just remember like, we both just started bawling. I don't know if it was like how he was so young or whatever, but you felt the people around us going like, are they okay? Do we need to check on them? Yeah. But that moment definitely stands out.
Rom-com rankings.
So the first category in the rom-com rankings is the romantic chemistry between the leads. We've talked a lot about Nicholson and Diane Keaton here. So 1 being lowest, 5 being the highest. How would you rate their relationship in this movie?
I could easily go to 4 and almost to 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
I went to 5. Why?
I could. No, I could go 5. It's there.
Yeah.
I just don't want to be so generous that I can't.
Yeah.
Don't have anything to say.
Yeah. I almost feel a little bit bad for Erica in this situation. I think they'll definitely make it, but there's going to be a lot of work to be done on her end, I think, as they're together. I mean, you're talking about someone who's, they basically say it. He's until Erica has never stayed the night with a woman before. So yeah, they'll have lots of hurdles to go across, but you know.
Yes, but when she said, "You understand me," he came to he decided to let that take be genuine and not just come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So second category, there's usually like the kind of best friend who kind of champions them along. This category is kind of it's kind of been molded into different things as we've been going through these movies, because sometimes it's more like the supporting characters as a whole. You know, Harry doesn't really have a best bud that's guiding him through this process or really giving him a lot of advice, which kind of tracks with his character in here. We talked a little bit about Frances McDormand and this playing Erica's sister. And so I think she definitely stands out, but she's not in the movie a whole lot. So how would you kind of rank this category, this aspect of a rom-com?
And what's the category?
Like the best friend.
The best friend. Well, Frances is a good coach at the right moment.
Right. Yeah.
She doesn't force her, but she encourages her.
Yeah.
And then I was trying to think who his best friend would be. Perhaps there's not one, but maybe in a way, Amanda Peet.
Yeah. Yeah.
In a way, she becomes his friend.
Right.
They were friends. We're still going to be friends.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what she says.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that would be his best friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
His former girlfriend.
Yeah. 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 No, you're totally right. Yeah. She's the one that kind of pushes him to, chase her to Paris, or chase after her to Paris. But yeah, I gave this like a solid 3. Honestly, this is a movie. It had been a little while since I've seen it. I kind of forgot about the people in it. I've always been a big fan of Amanda Peet, and I was like, oh yeah, she's in this. I remember Keanu Reeves, but I had like completely forgotten about Frances McDormand and stuff like that. So I do think the moments they're in the movie stand out, but they're not in it a whole lot. So that's why, yeah.
what's the pivotal moment for Amanda Peet's character when she decides to quit playing with old men and to find a relationship?
Right.
There's somebody that nudges her. Maybe it's her mother is her friend there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
okay, I'd give this a 4.
A 4. Okay. No, I can go with that. Okay. So we were in the same car before we recorded this conversation, and I really didn't mean for you to have so many notes on the soundtrack. So I sent you a link to the soundtrack on Spotify today, and obviously you had a chance to listen to it. So after your copious notes, like how do you rank?
Well, there were a lot of songs that I knew from my childhood.
Yeah.
That would be romantic songs.
Yeah.
And so they were fun to hear again. Then there's a lot of French
A lot of French songs.
being sung, but also French orchestras, or I think there's one called the Paris Combo. And so that music was very pleasant. And they used it in the transition points, and I thought they just really prepped you for the next development. Then it was surprising how far they come up. They even come up to Harry Connick and Diana Krall.
Uh-huh.
They get all the way up to a more contemporary day. So I thought it was strong.
Yeah. Yeah. So how do you rank the soundtrack?
Well, I wish I knew more about the soundtrack part because I've never studied one like I was trying to do today. But I'd give it a 4 as well.
Okay, yeah. Once again, I guess I was just in the 3 category for this. It's a very, romantic is definitely the right word to use for the soundtrack, but it's like upbeat romantic. There's not there's not a lot of swooning songs on it. I thought it was a pleasant listen. I mean, I felt like if you had like a nice like dinner with friends with like a steak and a nice wine, like it would be a really good soundtrack to like put on in the background.
I think you're not wrong. You have Johnny Mathis, Look at Me.
Yeah.
And then you have even Brenda Lee singing Break It To Me Gently. So Etta James has 5 or 6 songs.
Oh, okay.
And she's sort of a female jazz artist, and they were good to hear. Made me think I may find an Etta James playlist and see what it has to offer.
Oh yeah. And a very popular song. It's almost like one of those songs you know without knowing. But Louis Armstrong has a song on here, and I don't know French, so give me grace there. La Vie en Rose,
yes.
Which is a real popular song, and apparently I was doing some research, and the scene got cut out at the end, but apparently there's a scene at the end where Jack Nicholson sings that song.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So.
Well, Armstrong has about 6 or 7 songs in this long list.
Oh, okay.
I thought you were going to ask me who has the most songs in it. So,
well, I felt really bad because I give it a listen and maybe even skim the soundtrack sometimes. So I'm sorry that I made you to do a deep dive there. So the fourth category, usually rom-coms, have a big chase scene, a big declaration of love. This one, I think this movie's a little unique because what makes it good is a lot of the declaration of love kind of comes like early on, but I think it's because these characters are, so open with one another. But definitely we've talked about this, he chases her to Paris. And so, how would you rank this category?
And the category is
a chase scene, declaration of love.
Well, for me, it was her. She fell pretty quickly, and then he leaves her home to go back to life as usual, and she gets called to New York City on that same day, and he's gone back to his old ways. He's called up a former girlfriend and going to dinner, and that's when she sees him, and it crushes her, and she goes back home.
Yeah.
But somewhere, and I wish I had marked it down, somewhere after that, when you think she's going to be hard fast and gone from him, she says, "No, I'm in love." Do you remember that?
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
can't remember what led her to say, "No, I'm in love," and that's when the movie had reached its climax.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. She said at one point, "I thought I was closed for business." Remember?
Yeah, yeah,
She said, "I really thought I was closed up for business, but nothing's really surprised me more than this."
yeah,
But when she came to that love thing, now I want to watch the movie again because I got tickled that was just, it's like she didn't make us wait till some strong romantic end. She knew that her character had already been decided.
yeah,
Yeah. So I'd give it a 4 or 5 because he's coming to it. He comes to it before he can give himself to it.
yeah.
So
Yeah, yeah. I gave it a 4 because, I thought it was great. I mean, anytime you're ending a movie in the city of love, I mean, come on, and so it plays nice. I like how he's the one on the bridge who starts crying and it starts snowing and he even kind of looks up to the heavens, kind of like really. I like the scene that you mentioned is like that run in when she sees him at the restaurant. And, it's the one time he is truly gets off his game. You can kind of see how he's probably had fights like this before, but his words have always won him over.
Yes.
Forget, and she, A, doesn't let him off the hook. And B, it's the one time he doesn't, he literally loses his loss for words. Like, he stammers and stuff. So yeah, I like that scene of like, this woman is, he's met his match with her. So the last category is the rewatchability factor of these movies. And so how would you rank this?
Well, when you gave us the list several months ago
Yeah.
that we'd be wanting to do these, I chose it because I wanted to watch it again.
Yeah.
I hadn't in a long time, and now this conversation, there's 2 or 3 things I'd like to see again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I personally gave it a 4. I do think it's maybe versus some other rom-coms. I do think it's, in a way, I mean, it definitely has funny moments, but it definitely makes you think, like, I think a little bit more. Like, it's not something I would be naturally just, I would want to sit with it, I guess what I'm saying, versus just kind of throwing it on and maybe doing something else. But,
Right.
I gave it 4.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Yeah. Well, if just kind of final thoughts about this movie, if you could sum up the essence of something's got to give in just a few words, what would you say?
Well, I went into the movie wanting to answer the question, what had to give? And I think everybody in the play had to give something, because that's when Diane Keaton asked her daughter what she's willing to give to quit this, quit letting herself be picked up by old men who have nothing to offer her, and finding someone who does. So that had something to give, and of course the womanizer has to give a lot, but then she has to give up on the idea that life's over for her, that it's breaking forward. So
Yeah.
I guess that's what I would say.
Yeah. And you kind of mentioned this already, but you like where it kind of falls here? Like, I know you're not super familiar with the list, but number 11, like, do you feel like that's a...
Well, I'd like to see the whole list over, but it didn't surprise me tonight when you said number 11.
Yeah.
Because it's darn good.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a literary, not a masterpiece,
No.
but done very well. That you just watch it unfold, and it answers your questions as you go along, and it puts up a few roadblocks that you think, well, yeah, this can't develop. And then she's holding out for the idea that people can develop.
Yeah.
There we go. That's
Yeah. I should in the conversation there about this movie, but I did want to touch on just one little thing that kind of bugged me a little bit. So they have their moment on the bridge in Paris. It fades out, and then we see them. I think it says 1 year later, and they're with the Marin and her husband, and they have the kid. And there's really no set dialogue. We just see them all together, and then the credits start to roll. I didn't think that was needed at all, but it really bugged me. I was like, why did we tag this on? I just thought the fade out from Paris was like perfect, but that felt like a show note, like a studio note to me of like, no, people need more closure or something like that. I felt like it was tacked on, but I don't know if you agree or disagree.
Maybe I do. I guess where it didn't spoil it for me is that this theme that my brother's word, it's all good.
Uh-huh.
Well, all of this has come for good. Look.
Yeah.
And now here it's going forward.
Yeah.
So, in fact, it went forward in new ways I hadn't thought. Isn't he carrying the baby?
Yeah. He's playing this kind of grandfathery type of role or
whatever.
whatever.
Who would have thought?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so that wasn't too bad for me.
No. I think especially because up to this point, pretty dialogue-driven film, and there's really not like set words of dialogue that are being said. It just kind of felt a little odd for me, but. Yeah, that makes it sound like I'm poo-pooing the movie, but there's like kind of little moments like that maybe kind of made me pause and maybe not give this movie quite like five stars.
Recommendations.
I know you and Jennifer tend to watch a lot of things. I jokingly at least give Jennifer a hard time because she can never remember the name of any of the things that you watch. But is there any show or movie or even book that you're reading that you've been recommending to people?
No, we've been watching the great detective stories.
Okay.
And we're in the final one. What's her name? Jodie Foster.
Oh, True Detective.
True Detective. Is that not what I said?
You said the great detective story.
Oh, True Detective.
Yeah.
Well, we're in the fourth one.
Okay.
And the other three were all dynamite. And now she's the detective in this Antarctic experience. Yeah. And that's right where we are.
Oh, okay.
Kind of wondering what the world she's doing there, but I think she's going to be good.
Yeah. That's a really dark series to binge.
It is.
Yeah, a good friend of mine who's been on the podcast many times, Kyle Radford. He had high praise for this season with Jodie Foster. But yeah, I never. I tried. I think I watched all of the first season, and it just didn't do much for me. And so yeah.
Well, it is like work.
It is like work. Yeah, for sure. Well, it's kind of interesting. We haven't quite finished it yet, but Whitney and I are watching Quiet on Set, the Dark Side of Kids TV, which has made a lot of news recently. It's on Max, and it's this 5-part documentary series that details some of the behind the scenes behind some of the most popular children's television programs from the 90s to the early 2000s, most notably from Nickelodeon, and it really focuses on this producer, Dan Schneider. And it is it's really dark because it's talking about very dark things that happen like behind the scenes and stuff like that. So it's a real interesting series. I kind of have some what I like about it, I mean, it's a tough watch in many ways, but it definitely will elicit conversation with whoever you're watching about. So a lot of people are talking about that show right now, but I would recommend it because if anything, I think it stresses the importance of just that there are bad people out there. There's, basically that whole, like, if you see something, say something, and how things like people ignore just gross and bad people, and I think we've come a long way, but we still have a lot a lot of work to do as a society as far as calling people out on certain areas. But have you heard about that show yet?
No, but I'm going to look it up.
Yeah, yeah, it's on Max. So that's my recommendation. But also, I'd say watch a trailer if it entices you. I think whether people can take in the content, it might be sensitive to a lot of people, but that's definitely. I had heard of it, was seeing lots of articles about it, and then several friends told Whitney about it, so we started watching it. So I appreciate you coming in.
I
and
enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Do you like the recliner setup here?
Oh, it's a good setup. This is a good program.
Yeah. So remember, you can always visit our website, moviesyourlife.com, for all our episode reviews and more. Next week, we're staying with the rom-coms, and we're going to talk about Bridget Jones' Diary.
Huh.
Yeah, which I probably haven't seen since it came out. So
I liked that movie, but I couldn't tell you for a minute what it was about.
yeah,
I forgot.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that holds up, and to see if Renee Zellweger's British accent holds up. So
good.
yeah. Well, thanks again.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.